Hello, welcome to Localization Today, where we explore how language, technology, and community converge to unlock ideas for everyone, everywhere. I'm Eddie Arrieta, CEO at MultiLingual Media, and today we're taking a closer look at interpreting at global scale through the lens of one of the most complex international events in recent years, COP30. Major international summits are often described as temporary cities, bringing together thousands of participants, hundreds of sessions, and speakers from across the world. But behind every negotiation, panel discussion, and diplomatic exchange lies a critical infrastructure that often remains invisible: interpreting. Joining us today is Giulia Silvestrini, Head of Global Interpreting at Acolad, who helped oversee the interpreting operations supporting COP30. In this conversation, we'll explore the logistics, the technology, and the human expertise required to keep multilingual communication flowing in high-stakes environments, and what events like COP30 reveal about the future of interpreting. Giulia, welcome to the show.
Hi, Eddie. Thanks for having me, and thanks for the introduction.
Of course, we're really happy to have you with us, Julie, on this very important topic. And for those who might not know who you are, what you do, Julia, how would you describe yourself and what you're up to these days?
I would say these days I'm up to a lot of different things, as we all are. So a lot of changes all the time. So I'm drafting plans, which I discard 3 minutes after, but it's also the beauty of it, right? So a lot of technology, a lot of new solutions that are being tailored, and of course, collaboration with interpreter community, interpreter associations. So exciting times indeed.
Indeed, exciting times, Julia. And just last year in November, COP30 took place, and I was very amazed to see how Acolad was involved in this event. So today we want to dig a little bit deeper in there. COP30 was described as a temporary city. For an interpreting perspective, what made this event uniquely complex for you and your team?
I would say for sure scale. Scale was significant. There were multiple conference rooms in the main zone and then pavilions. So you describe it very well. So as a temporary city. And then, of course, the scale when it comes to the physical location, but also in the virtual environment. So you can imagine we handled hundreds of sessions. So in a virtual space, a lot of different virtual meetings, links. So it was definitely, under a logistical point of view, quite a challenging environment. And then unpredictability. So again, back to the plans that you draft before moving on to the next one. Unforeseen events are, a certainty in all large events. But here, agendas would change, and it's the nature of the negotiations that we were supporting, and also several changes due to, we are all human when deploying a large group of interpreters, technicians. There are changes last minute, and so technology and also the infrastructure on site, coping with any unforeseen events all the time. So in a way, the team has been working with a safety net, but also without a safety net, depending on the situation. So navigating and changing in an agile way to make sure that service continuity was guaranteed throughout the event. And then interdependency. So this event was run smoothly thanks to the collaboration with on-site partners, remote partners, and synergies were key. Which is a positive, but it can also become a challenge. So that's why in an interconnected environment and where a lot of interdependencies have to be managed on a daily basis, it is really key to ensure the right communication flow and make sure that all stakeholders are aligned and aware of the intended outcomes and how to get there.
And that's amazing how you mentioned these elements of unpredictability and interdependencies. And I can imagine how a set structure and organization really helps reduce that level of anxiety. Giulia, when organizing these large multilingual events, how do you decide then when on site interpreting is essential and when remote interpreting becomes the better option?
The approach is a consultative approach, so it's of course a shared decision, and it's the outcome of the conversation with organizers, with service recipients, and it's a conversation that needs to touch upon several aspects, including quality requirements, security considerations, financial considerations. So let's say that we start from the intended outcome, and then we make sure the right methodologies are deployed to make sure that we can get there. Then service business continuity, I mentioned it right now a few minutes ago, is key. So regardless which solution is going to be selected, be it remote or on-site, a backup, fallback scenarios must be designed, must be tested, and it is key to ensure that service continuity can be guaranteed. So consultative approach, we reach a solution, we ensure the methodology is key, we define the framework to allow an agile approach, because decision making is key. When everything changes, each stakeholder must be able to make the right decisions to ensure the intended outcome. And then I think the main aspect is really to make sure that different solutions can be integrated effectively, right? Why do we do what we do? To enhance the communication experience, and we want to ensure that service provision is effective. So what I'm saying is, we normally combine on site for certain types of use cases, remote, potentially even AI, to make sure that all needs and expectations are met. And of course, we test everything because often on paper things look different than in reality. So this is also key.
I really love the approach and the order in the methodology to make sure that even when things that are planned don't go as planned, there is a way to react to it. I really like hearing that. Of course, as well in this conversation, remote simultaneous interpreting is still relatively new in these high stakes diplomatic environments. How have delegates and organizers reacted, and how has adoption evolved in this conversation?
That's a great question, and what we noticed is that adoption is really influenced by the delivery method. So concretely, we are in conference settings. We are all used to using traditional headsets. You go to a conference room, you take your headset, and then you listen to the interpretation. Remote simultaneous interpretation and even AI can be delivered via traditional headsets. So in high stakes environment, adoption tends to be much more positive whenever the technology component is combined with traditional elements, so traditional headsets, to reduce dependencies on own devices, including receiving phone calls or the fact that your smartphone may not be fully charged and other aspects. So the RSI solution itself, remote simultaneous interpretation, needs to be adapted and tailored to the context, right? If we are in a high-profile setting, the necessary measures have to be taken to make sure that the solution can seamlessly integrate and meet expectations. And then what is key is, of course, to have, sounds obvious, but for adoption to be successful, the right setup must be in place, and the required conditions must be met. And if that's the case, remote simultaneous interpretation, the difference may even be unnoticeable. But of course, there's work to be done upfront to make sure that those conditions are met, from the AV setup to ensuring that the output quality is good enough, checking the interpreter's working environment, and so on. But we won't go into the details today, but the right setup must be available. And then communication is key, meaning we in complex events, in multilateral contexts, what can happen is that maybe the organizers, those who requested the service, may not be the same stakeholders who are on site. So communication must be clear, and clear guidance is essential, which means that I'll give you a concrete example. If I arrive in a conference room, I see that the booths are empty. Of course, I may be inclined to believe there's no interpretation. And during such an event, stakeholders that the recipients of interpretation have so many other aspects to consider, to think about. Interpretation must be invisible, but it is really in the service provider's responsibility to make sure that all attendees are aware that the interpreters are ready to start interpreting, just not on site in a remote setting. So these are details that may sound obvious, but they become of paramount importance to avoid last-minute stress prior to an event.
That's very interesting how you touch upon communications, Giulia, because especially in these times where technology is evolving so fast, it seems like communications is perhaps the key element to make sure that those anxieties are reduced for organizers, providers. So if you allow me, let me ask a little bit about what everyone talks these days. Artificial intelligence. Giulia, how do you see AI, or do you see AI primarily as a tool to support interpreters, or could it eventually replace parts of the job?
So for sure, AI can be a tool for interpreters, as it is a tool for professionals across industries and domains, right? For interpreters, AI can be helpful in the preparation phase, which remains essential. So interpreters do prepare prior to an event to ensure the right understanding, terminology compliance, and service quality. And also it can be a tool for interpreters while delivering the interpretation, especially when it comes to particularly technical contents. At the same time, AI can be, especially if combined with human interpretation, can be a tool to expand language access. I'll give a concrete example. Interpretation, it can be performed by on-site or interpreters or via remote simultaneous interpretation, and live captioning, so live subtitles, can help make the communication experience more inclusive. The AI output may not be 100% accurate, as we know, but still it may allow the audience to follow more easily and to understand the contents that are being dealt with more easily, just as an example. Or AI interpretation could also be used in use cases for which interpretation was not used before. So typically breakout rooms. Sometimes during the plenary sessions or the main sessions, human interpretation is provided, but due to a number of reasons, it is not provided during working sessions or breakout sessions. But that's where the work happens. So AI can be a tool to allow an expanded usage of interpretation where interpretation hasn't been provided so far.
And of course, this gets me to my next question. We are in these moments where there are risks involved. So what risks do organizations underestimate when experimenting with AI? And I guess we can guess a little bit from your answer. But when it comes to AI in high stakes communication environments, could you give us some light into this?
Sure. Again, I use the term tool a couple of times, but AI and technology, including RSI technology, which is particularly advanced. I mean, it has been used since 2020, also in high-stake settings. These are tools. So specific expertise is required to deploy AI and technology-powered solutions effectively. What does it mean concretely? So these technology solutions need to be tested thoroughly, and then whenever they are deployed, communication again is key. So what we see is that adoption tends to be positive. We achieve positive outcomes when we engage the audience, when the audience is fully aware of the fact that the AI output will not be perfect, that there will be terms translated out of context. They will be aware, maybe if human interpretation and live captioning, AI generated, are combined, they will be aware of the fact that the human interpretation will be their main reference throughout the event. So I'm saying this because AI is already deployed in certain settings. What I think is key is to manage expectations and make sure all stakeholders are aware of the strengths that AI can bring, but also of its risks and limitations. And testing, monitoring, ongoing support are key, especially in high-profile settings. To give you a concrete example, so the sound quality required for interpreters to provide professional interpretation is the requirements are much more stricter than for a passive user listening to the conference itself. For AI, if the audio input is not good enough, the interpretation quality, the output may not make any sense at all. So that's where preparation, testing, and technical support throughout the session are key.
And of course, this experience that you had with COP30, it's here to provide us some context. It's here to provide us some insights. Looking ahead from this experience that you had, what lessons does managing a mega event like COP30 teach us about the future of conference interpreting as a profession?
I think the first learning is that the human element remains irreplaceable, especially in high-stake environments. The nuance, precision, awareness of the broader context, and changing dynamics are key. And this is what human expertise brings into the equation. And when I refer to human expertise, I refer to professional interpreters, I refer to service providers who design, partner with the conference organizers, with service recipients to ensure that outcomes are met consistently throughout the event. But then the key learning is also that technology and AI, if they are deployed safely and responsibly, they do empower service delivery. We all are aware of the importance of environmental considerations, the advantages that technology can help us benefit from if we deploy those tools correctly. So typically, instead of having all interpreters for such an event travel to the event location, how can we combine RSI, remote simultaneous interpreting solutions, with on-site solutions to make sure that the right balance between quality, financial considerations, environmental considerations is met. And then the key point is really the partnership with organizers, with service recipients, as we mentioned, to design the communication experience and then ensure that it is delivered as agreed. And of course, partnership, I mentioned interdependencies at the beginning. So the audiovisual setup is key. A strong, solid, remote simultaneous interpretation solution is essential. The human element expertise in orchestrating all of these elements is key. So the word partnership is for sure the most important in the whole organization of a large-scale event.
And this is great. I really love the designing of the communication experience, and it's something that I've heard here for the first time. Giulia, thank you so much for this conversation. Before we go, are there any messages, final thoughts that you'd like to share with us before leaving?
No, just thank you again for having me and for taking the time to discuss conference interpretation, because it is a niche, but indeed it helps deliver key messages, and it supports international dialogue, which is more important than ever. So thank you again for choosing this topic and for having me.
Thank you, Giulia, for accepting our invitation. And you are right. Today, more than ever, communication is a key for our world. We want to thank everyone for listening to Localization today. Once again, a big thank you to Giulia Silvestrini, who is, of course, the head of global interpreting at Acolad, for giving us the behind the scenes look at what it takes to deliver multilingual communication at scale of global events like COP30. As diplomacy, global collaboration, and hybrid conferences continue to evolve, interpreting remains a critical, though often invisible, part of making those conversations possible. Catch new episodes of Localization Today on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Subscribe, rate, and share so others can find the show. I'm Eddie Arrieta with MultiLingual Media. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.